Welcome back. You're still tuned in to the AI report. And what we're discussing on this segment is something fairly significant because there are chances that you may have actually gone for a job interview and unfortunately got rejected for whatever reason. But chances now are you may go for a job interview and get rejected even before meeting the interviewer. That's right. That's a new trend which seems to be emerging. So remember the early 2000s film Minority Report by Steven Spielberg, starring none other than Tom Cruise? They had a concept called precog, arresting people before they actually commit a crime. It seems something like that is likely to play out in corporate boardrooms and those little cubicles, the daunting ones that HR interviews usually take place in. And it seems that there's a University of Pennsylvania study which assesses people on 5 key parameters. Those 5 parameters are here on the graphics for you to read, but there are 5 parameters on which your face tells potentially the interviewer or the recruiter what's going on in that mind of yours. And that could be daunting for those who haven't said a word, haven't even as much as introduced themselves physically to the recruiter, but maybe turned back and sent home with no job in their hands. So how's all this going to unfold? Let's sort of try and get a corporate perspective into this. We are joined today by Lloyd Mathias, an angel investor and a corporate veteran. Lloyd, thank you so much for your time, and just help us understand, is this fiction going too far and really now coming at the cusp of reality, which could be scary for people who want to appear for those jobs and try and win that job interview, but don't even happen to meet the recruiter?
I would start off saying that AI facial analysis in the workplace raises a number of ethical red flags.
Right.
One, it blends technology, privacy, and power dynamics between employer and employee. Right. So in that sense, it is a bit of a tinderbox. It is a concern. The other point that I would get worried, I know this is a very early reaction to something that's coming out of a university, is the fact that the bulk of AI training algorithms, facial recognition, so be it, would largely be based on the bulk of data from the Western world, right? So recognizing of white faces and such like. So I think it's troubling on both counts. One, the fact that the underlying logic and assumptions may not hold true, and the other part is the fact that it's actually wades into a person's right to privacy, right? So your employer will now not just be able to make judgments about you without even meeting you, but more important, it can also be a very severe surveillance tool. I mean, I'm foreseeing a day when performance appraisals will be based on the fact that, through a certain period, you looked very glum, you looked uninterested in your work, you were very casual about how you were approaching stuff, because there would actually be interpretations of people's facial expressions. Having said which, I want to just put a small disclaimer. I do welcome the fact that facial recognition can at times be very useful in the context of security, identifying criminals, or even things like, say, DigiYatra, right? We all kind of used things of that sort, or even locking and unlocking phones. So there is a good side to facial recognition, but clearly when it comes to the workforce and making judgments basis facial recognition, I certainly have reservations.
Right. You mentioned, Lloyd, that there could be ethical concerns around this technology, and some of those concerns also sort of bridge this bias which exists in the system already. You mentioned white faces. I'm sure the machines can learn faces of different genes and different cultures and different ethnicities. But at the end of the day, while there are these ethical concerns, there's also a fact that you can lie on your CV, you can forge certificates, but if there is a technology which is able to pretty much peep beyond your face into your mind, there are ethical concerns, I appreciate completely, but then there could be a potential use case where lies don't make it beyond the CV.
Kartik, I'd say AI facial systems often reflect the biases on the data they're trained on, right? And the reason I'm saying this is that when this comes into play, the possibility raises larger questions about how algorithms, decision making, and how humans perceive fairness. I wouldn't know what is the logic and the ethical base for that. understanding? Is it because the mass of humanity, when they look disinterested, look a particular way? There could be exceptions. So therefore, letting a machine make that final call for me is always a borderline issue. You have a point when you say that people can manipulate real data, they can fake certificates, they can fake their backgrounds, and that is equally a concern. But taking a decision purely basis what facial interpretations do, I think then becomes deeply troubling, because you're actually letting a machine override human considerations.
I see your point. So, Lloyd, I think what we're trying to arrive at is that perhaps using just facial recognition, AI-driven, previous biases-driven data as a tool of rejection may be unfair. But do you think it could be used as a tool of shortlisting, that, hey, there's somebody whose body language, whose facial expressions reflect the values which are essential for that organization, be it confidence, be it calm composure, be it problem-solving ability, being excitement. I mean, these are some of the tools or some of the attributes that may indeed become shortlisting criteria for recruiters. Would that be a good thing?
I'd say yes, because in a sense today, let's say for a lot of mass jobs, if you look at, one of the large IT firms, hire en masse, all the CVs are processed through automatic reading systems, right? So they look out for certain keywords, right? And therefore, a lot of people recognize that for a job as a coder, you need to put the following 4 or 5 keywords. For a job as a salesperson, you need to have the following roles, right? And therefore, only a short list of CVs is now is moved to a human eye, when someone in the talent acquisition team can take a look and therefore make a list and eventually end up meeting even a shorter few and so on and so forth. So that pyramid approach is good. And I think that way, this is an extension of that process, which is fine. Right. So I would say certainly yes, if you're looking at hiring en masse or doing a large scale exercise and you need to shortlist to economize on people's time, to make it more rational, I think then it's fine. But letting it to a final decision basis some of the AI prompts, I think that would be worrying. For me, these inferences are scientifically unreliable and deeply invasive, right? Some scientist somewhere has programmed the algorithm or has written the algorithm based on certain assumptions. Over time, they'll get reinforced, over time, they'll get fine-tuned, but albeit they are still assumptions that, to my mind, are scientifically unreliable and, in a sense, deeply invasive, right? It's someone kind of holding a mirror to your soul, right? And as an employee or as a potential employee, why should I let someone kind of hold a mirror to my soul?
All right, fair enough. Lloyd Mathias, always a pleasure having you here with us on News9. Thank you so much for your input on that emerging trend that you're seeing here in the world of AI. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Kartik. Always a pleasure. Thank you.
And with that, we will slip into a short break. But coming up on the other side, there's something going on with Gen Zs. They don't want to date. They don't want to get into relationships. And there is obviously something going on with their fascination to everything that happens on a screen. We'll tell you all about that on the other side of the break. You're watching the AI Report.